Sawadee Cup and welcome to another episode here for the Funky Pod, Mindful Media and Communication. And today we're talking about a very interesting topic, I think. We're talking about sports washing. Why would I talk about sports washing in a year where Cristiano Ronaldo moves to Saudi Arabia and just a few months after the World Cup's been I don't want to say sports wash, but well, maybe it has. We dive into all the details in just a second. Has the World Cup been used for sports washing? What else is sports washing? How does it work, and how can we do it? All this here in the next few minutes. Okay, so let's dive into it. I simply assume that some of you are either sports fans or maybe corruption detectives who just like to, I don't know, find the trails and the paper trails and figure out who does what and who's guilty of certain things. So no matter who you are, I'm happy you're here, okay? So let's follow the money. Quick reference for all the old people here. Follow the money down the somewhat treacherous rabbit hole, if you will, as we try and blow the whistle on a pretty shady practice of sports washing. So that's right. We're here to actually expose how morally questionable regimes and maybe even corporations use like flashy sporting events and teams to distract from, well, their copious crimes and human rights abuses. So these nefarious actors, right, that we're gonna talk about, they want sports glory to help everyone conveniently forget about all the oppression, murder, exploitation, and just general evil doing that they engage in the rest of the time, okay? Not on our watch, though, of course, obviously. So we're here to tackle, look at those football references, to tackle this deceitful match with some good old-fashioned truth-telling right here, and maybe even the one or two sarcastic metaphors. You might have already heard some of those. So let's dive in. Head first. No. Foot first. Football tackle. Soccer tackle. We call it football, okay? So let's decode those devious tactics of sports washing. Ready? Ready. Okay, so first half. So first of all, what exactly is sports washing, right? But on the surface, it's just hosting like huge sporting events like, for example, the World Cup, the Olympics. Oh, see, it's not just the World Cup in Qatar. It's actually also the Olympics, for example. Or just heavily investing in popular sports teams. Okay, that's what we call sports washing. If you look closer, but it comes down to the goal of why are corporations, countries, and so on doing that, right? So if you look closer, it's clear that the goal is reputation management. That's it, okay? Reputation management and propaganda. And I'm German, so I know propaganda when I see it. So those partly despotic regimes, but also corporations, right? They want to use this feel-good fanfare. That was the German pronunciation, fanfare of sports to like cynically launder their global image from like villainous to virtuous. Look at us, how awesome we are. Aren't we awesome? We are so awesome. And that's the idea. So they spend like an exorbitant amount of money to whitewash abuses and make everyone forget about it. Okay, forget about that time. I know they dismembered a journalist, for example, who said mean things about them. Yes, that happened. Yeah, oops. Oh, what us? We didn't kill anyone. And crazy. Look at Ronaldo. He's playing over there. What are you talking about? Yeah, they're glittering like stadiums and like this PR dazzle aimed to obviously mask like ongoing oppression from prying eyes. So it's like dictators putting like lipstick on pigs, right? Like autocrats like painting fresh coats of virtue over all those tarnished moral exteriors. The thing is though, some stains, they don't wash out so easily, right? So these regimes, they can host, of course, the glitziest of sporting events, and it still does not erase the heinous acts that got them there, right? Nice try, though, nice try. And they're not stopping. They're not. And it's not just about nations, because, I mean, it's easy now to pick the Qatar World Cup, of course, because it just happened last year. Or Ronaldo just moved to Saudi Arabia, so it's easy to pick on that. It's not just regimes that do that. I mean, it's a very terrible thing, but it's also corporations. I mean, You think Messi moved to the MLS just because it's of all the sunshine in Miami? Think about it. Think about who he signed a contract with, who owns the MLS, and so on. Yeah. So a few media theories, because we always talk about media in this podcast, right? So some of the media theories you already know are agenda setting and cultivation theory, right? And those two are also some driving factors behind sports washing. And so those are some two of the key communication concepts, okay? And let me break it down. So first, agenda setting theory. It suggests that media doesn't necessarily tell us what to think, but what topics to focus on. So sports washing shifts attention onto like countries' flashy athletic achievements rather than their abdominal like human rights record. So hey, don't look at the human rights. Look over here, right? So using your HDHD, so basically, right? And they're not telling you, hey, that's not human rights abuse. They're just saying, look over there. Mm-hmm. That's basically what they do. And if you talk about cultivation theory, it just looks at how consuming consistent messaging can shape our sense of reality. So sports washing like cultivates the illusion of progress, of openness, and modernity through repetition, right? Of positive sporting imagery. You see Ronaldo putting out those nice narratives about Saudi Arabia and so on. You're like, okay, it must be awesome there. Ronaldo, Benzema, everybody's happy. So must be nice there, right? Right. So together, agenda setting and cultivation theory, they help those regimes and corporations to spotlight sports and repeatedly like reinforce the positive but artificial associations, right? And meanwhile, the inconvenient like facts about oppression, for example, get swept under like this glitzy branded rug, okay? Pretty devious tactic. To be completely clear, that's not a new tactic, right? I mean, why do sports teams have sponsors, for example? Yeah, of course, to get the money, but like, why do companies sponsor sports teams? It's all about image. It's like, hey, look, we're like Barcelona. Spotify can't be bad. And I'm not saying it is, but follow me on Spotify. But you see what I'm saying, right? So the sports watching has been around forever. Now it's just been taken to another level. And that's why I'm talking about it. Another interesting theory I think that we can use here is cultural imperialism. I love the idea of cultural imperialism because, well, gone are the days of where one country invades another country, right? Well, let's move on. But cultural imperialism, right? The implications of like dumping like limitless money into Western teams in this example and athletes, okay? So for example, if you look at like the Persian Gulf nations, they want the prestige and the credibility that comes along with like leading European football clubs, right? And sponsoring like those globally revered sports stars. So it allows them to act like open, developed societies when the reality is it's maybe more restrictive and totalitarian than it wants us to believe, okay? So having David Beckham, as it was, for example, as your tourism ambassador, lets people conveniently forget you don't allow free speech, for example, or elections or things like this. Like great deal, great deal. So they get to like siphon of like billions in oil money to play fantasy football with like elite teams while scoring an international like reputation boost, if you will, right? And spike tourism to their oppressed regions. Everyone wins, right? Well, except for the exploited migrant workers and child activists and people dying when building stadiums. But I mean, who's counting, right? Who's counting? Also, cultural imperialism, right? Meaning you bring your culture to a country without forcing it by force, via war, or and so on. But like via, pop culture or cultural commodities, Starbucks, for example, typical American cultural imperialism at work here, right? Starbucks goes into every country in the world, basically. We're like, yeah, cool, or McDonald's, and we're embracing the American style there, right? So that's one form of cultural imperialism as well. And that also works, of course, with like taking over football clubs, right? Taking over whatever. American football clubs. I was looking for the right word, like football clubs, and as in soccer teams, but actual football clubs and American football clubs. For example, sponsoring, getting the UFC to go to Saudi Arabia, getting the WWE to go to Saudi Arabia, and so on. And so this also. It could be seen as like a back and forth of cultural imperialism, of course, right? Yeah, like who's getting the better deal of it remains to be seen, I believe. If you follow now that sinister sports washing money trail, right? I mean, digging a bit deeper into like those investments that are made by like those unscrupulous regimes and corporations to like chase clout and just public approval. One of those who's really active is the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, right? They now own, for example, the English Premier League club Newcastle United. If you wonder, like, why is Newcastle not shit anymore? It's because they got the Saudi money. So this allows the Saudi rulers to hide their egregious, like, crimes in Yemen, for example, behind the frenzied fandom and glory of elite European football. Yeah, the UAE has put like vast sums of Formula One, like money into Formula One, for example, auto racing, right? Using this as a vehicle to sports wash their reputation and provide like enticing branding opportunities. You got it right, the vehicle, because racing cars. Okay. China started, not started, but like they were one of the first big nations to do this. Actually, they spent like nauseating amount of money like to host the Winter Olympics, for example, in Beijing. But before they spent lots of money to get like elderly NBA stars, for example, to play in China, right? So they're trying to use athletics as an like attempted distraction from like ongoing oppression, for example, of the Uyghur Muslims. As an outrage was temporarily displaced by pride in Chinese athlete victories and so on. And there are countless more examples. I mean, when I made like a list, like a few bullet points for the podcast, I was like, oh my god, there are really so many examples. Like I said, it didn't just start now, right? Like sponsorships have been around forever, and it's been always the case. And it's just once you're really following the trail, you're like, who can I support? Who is still there that doesn't have dirty hands when it comes to this, right? If you have enough money like to throw around, you can essentially rent some sweet public goodwill through sports. Let's just call it how it is, right? What a deal. You know, as like Professor Pop Quiz, what is this sports washing? Let's pause for a quick pop quiz to make sure everyone understands how sports washing works. Don't worry, no grading, just fun with sports washing. So scenario, the North Korean government wants to distract like the global news media from their nuclear weapons program, even though they're very proud of it, of course, and their awful human rights record, right? They decide to host the World Table Tennis Championships in Pyongyang. They purchase a stake in Manchester United. I mean, okay. Why would they want to purchase a stake in like a failing football club? But that's just for the sake of purchase a stake in Manchester United Football Club. C, sponsor like the international esports tournaments of the video game Overwatch. Or D, all of the above. What's sports washing? Obviously it's D, right? Of course, you're correct. Those would all be textbook sports washing techniques to buy Kim Jong-un's regime some sweet, good publicity to counteract those inconvenient nuclear like armament and like widespread famine things. Yay, sports. Woo. So now how can we combat disinformation and stand for justice in times like these, right? Like while like callous sports washing aims to like dupe fans through those glitzy spectacles, we can fight by staying vigilant. That's the only thing we can do. Like you're gonna analyze facts rather than cheer blindly. Yeah, look past the shiny red exterior of propaganda and really try to see the truth. You gotta demand. We have to demand like real institutional change rather than like those token PR moves. Yeah, but we're hosting something. Look at it. Like, and you gotta help others become educated about like media literacy and critical thinking. And you see, all my episodes come back to this, right? Because if we have this, we can recognize those authoritarian information campaigns. And again, it's not just from regimes, it's also from corporations. Who owns the MLS? So the truth prevails if we expose this dishonest, destructive narratives and continue speaking out to uplift like human rights over dictators. And I know it sounds very cheesy and cliche, but it's the only thing we can do, okay? Because life isn't just a sporting event. And that's me saying a huge sports fan. I consume it all. I'm a huge sports fan, right? But people matter more than any medal or any trophy. And we gotta understand, even in times of constant consumption, that real life is more important than what happens on the screens. And that's a big takeaway we should all have, in my opinion. So, yeah, if you choose to refuse cheering corruption from the stands, then stuff's gonna change. Yeah, we can't allow like our love of sports to blur our vision of exploitation, tyranny, and so on. We're gonna refuse to mindlessly cheer corrupt regimes just because they splash cash everywhere. And if you're from Newcastle and you really love your team, which I understand, but then seeing that they're just being used to sports wash, once again, you gotta be like, maybe not, okay? As fans and global citizens that we are, right? We must see through the superficial sports spectacles and stand up for the oppressed. Because you and I, we can do it. Those people being oppressed and exploited, they can't. So it's our duty to help. And yeah, I know it sounds cheesy, but it is. Because integrity doesn't come from athletic excellence alone. It stems from how those feats were achieved, right? The way to achieve the goal is what really matters. So on that note, I'm going to end it here because I'm getting sad talking about how we shouldn't just cheer sports because as I said, I'm a huge sports fan. But yeah, let me know what you think. Like, should we just boycott everything? Did you boycott the World Cup, for example? Is that how we handle it? What can we do? How are you handling all those things? How do you combat sports washing? And how do you feel when it happens to your favorite team, for example? And let me know at funkypod on social media, funkypod@gmail.com. As always, leave your opinions, like, share, subscribe. That would be cool so we can reach a wider audience and hopefully have more discussions on all things media literacy, mindful media communication, maybe in particular also sports washing. Leave a review if you can. That would be fantastic. And until then, stay safe, take care. Don't be sports washed. Go to the gym. We talk soon. Sawadee Cup.